Okay, so one of the important thing is that when you're not speaking, to try to keep your microphone muted so that it doesn't come. So
doesn't create interference. That's it.
Yeah, it doesn't create interference or echoes or any of that.
Right.
Okay, so hello everybody. Welcome to our third episode of Women in STEAM Spanish version. So yesterday we learned about, we heard from an Italian expert back in, oh dear, I think October it was. We learned many things from a few Prague, or a few people from Prague. So this will be the conclusion of our Women in STEM experience. Last but definitely not least. Here we are. Let's go ahead and please welcome our guest.
Great, thank you, Silvia. It's for me a great pleasure to introduce Ainara Valencia. She's our teacher, okay? She's an expert on vocational training, and she's got a PhD on the so interesting topic of the environment and biology and pollution of the seas. So I just let the floor to her, okay? And well, I hope you all enjoy and take a lot of notes, okay? And are ready to ask questions afterwards.
Hear me well? Okay, so as Lucila introduced me, I'm Ainara Valencia, and I will start on the end of my career. Nowadays, I work here in Arangoya. I muted.
No, lo cerramos. Si tienes que cerrar los
No, pero igual sí. Bueno, okay, sorry. Entonces ellas no van a ver. Ah, bueno, okay. Okay, I will continue. So nowadays I'm a teacher here in Arangoya, and I teach students who are learning to be a technician in pathological anatomy. But before that, I was, as Lucila has said, working in science, doing my PhD investigation. So I will now go many years back, and I will explain to all of you how I got there. So in about 12 years ago, in 2008, I had to decide what career I wanted to study, and I chose to study biology. It wasn't an easy decision. I wasn't sure about it, but I had always liked the environment and natural sciences, and I thought that it could be a very nice and interesting topic. So I went to the university here in Bilbao, well, to the University of the Basque Country that is located in Leioa, that is a small town near Bilbao. And I was there for 5 years studying biology. Then I had to make other choices, and as the studies were very broad, I had to decide which topic was of most interest for me. So I decided to continue studying and to start working in the topic of environmental toxicology. That is the part of biology and chemistry that work with contamination and effects in living organisms in animals, plants, microorganisms that are in contact with contaminants. So here, for example, in Bilbao, there is the main river, the Nervión River, is quite contaminated, and because of all the industry that is held in the neighboring, in the surroundings. So it is a very studied topic, the one of contamination and toxicology. So many people, biologists and chemists mainly, work in that field, and they are every day discovering which are the effects of all the contamination in the animals that live here in the river and also in the sea. So it occurred to me that it was a very interesting topic, and also because it's not only the animals and the plants that are affected, but contamination can also affect humans. So I thought that it was really interesting. So I did a master degree in a small town called Palencia, which is near Bilbao also. And they are going to take me a picture. Okay, so sorry. So in Palencia, since 6 years, no more, like 8 years ago, they started working in the Palencia Marine Station that is held in an old hospital. There was a hospital many years ago there in the beach, and now it's a marine station. So people from different fields, chemists, biologists, also physics, mathematicians work there, and they work in the topic of mainly contamination, but also other topics related with the sea and animals and plants from aquatic areas. So I did my master there. If you already have questions, please, you can ask me if you want. Okay, so if not, I will continue. I tend to speak a lot, so if you need to tell me to stop, please do it. Okay, so I was there for 1 year in Palencia. It's a really beautiful environment. You can see the sea from this marine station, and it was a really nice experience. We were only 15 students. We were 13 girls and 2 boys. And then for some months, there were also international students from different countries. Also from Italy, from France, and from several Asian countries. So it was a very enriching experience because I got to meet very different people, all interested in the same topic, but with different backgrounds. And at that time, I had to do work to complete my studies, and I started working with fish. So what we did was go fishing in several rivers here in our community, in Bilbao and in other places that are a bit contaminated. For example, because they have a fishing port or a port where ships are working, and we were there. We went fishing, and we took each time like about 30 fish. And then what we did was analyze them in the laboratory. So it is obvious that if the contamination is, if there is a lot of contamination, fish can be ill and then die. So if a lot of fish die, it is very easy to see the effects. You go to the river or you go to the sea and you see no wildlife. there are no fish, for example. So you can, as a conclusion, you can say that there's a lot of pollution or that something went wrong, okay? But how do you know if the river that you are working in it's polluted if you still don't see that there are dead fish? So what we try to discover is if looking inside the fish, we could say if there was pollution or not. So what we did was open the fish. We had to kill them. To do that, we opened the fish and we saw if the organs were all right, if they had the correct color, the correct shape, and also we looked more deeper. We looked deeper in the cells, in the molecular level. So we started studying how the different molecules of interest were changing or not in those fish. So we did several experiments, several techniques in the laboratory, and we saw that some of the fish were ill. They were sick. For example, they had the liver that wasn't working well, and we could see that only looking at the cellular level. Because if you looked at the fish from the outside, the fish looked completely well and healthy. So normally in this field of, in the field of toxicology, in environmental toxicology, they try to get as much information as possible, but looking very deep in the organism. Instead of looking from the outside, they look to the inside. So as I liked quite a lot that work and that kind of studies, some of my teachers in the master, they asked me if I wanted to continue working with them in the laboratory. So I started working with them professionally in the year 2015. And I was there for 4 years and a half doing my PhD studies. So for those of you who don't know what a PhD is, what we do is we choose a topic of interest that we want, we have a question and we want to answer that question. So during 4 or 5 years, we do several experiments, we do a lot of research to try to answer that question. And my question was about the fish in some of the rivers here in the Basque country, and we wanted to know if they were healthy or not, and if what we saw macroscopically, that's it, with our eyes in the fish, if we could also see it and have more information at the molecular level. So what we did was to continue my project from my master studies. So I was about 4 years working on that. So maybe for some of you to work 4 years in the same field or the same topic can be boring, and sometimes it was, but it was really, really interesting because in science, normally when you start with one question, but then you finish with many more. So after 4 years working on that topic, we still didn't got the correct answer for that first question, and we had many other questions that we couldn't answer. So the topic is still open. I know that they continue working on that, and they still don't have all the answers because there are many factors that are working on that. I mean, fish are living in the water every day. The conditions of the water change seasonally and sometimes also during the day. And it's very difficult to understand all the process that is going on with them. What we saw, and it was very interesting also, is that not all the rivers, of course, are contaminated in the same way. In some rivers, there are more contaminants, so fish are less healthy. And in others, as they have improved a lot, for example, in the river here in Bilbao, in the last 20 years, there has been a big improvement. There is less contamination, so fish are healthier than some years ago. I'm going to look at the time. Okay. So apart from working in science in those years when I was doing my PhD studies, I had the opportunity to travel. I haven't said this, but when I was doing my degree in biology, I went for 1 year to Cagliari. So I was living in Italy for 1 year, and it was a great experience. Well, very sunny in the summer, but very cold and rainy in the winter. Many people think that when you go to Sardinia, it's like going on holiday for the whole year, but it's also rainy like here in the winter. So during my PhD, I traveled to different places, to international congresses, because it's very important that when you work in science, you let other people know what you are working in. So the topic of pollution and toxicology, it's very spread in the world. There are many research groups that are working on that field because it's very important to understand which are the consequences of our actions in the environment. In our everyday life, we produce a lot of contaminants. Now that we have to clean everything perfectly, all the products can be harmful for the environment. So there are many people in the world working to try to discover which are the effects in living organisms, and to try to recover and to try to help animals and plants to get healthier. So what we do normally is when we finish one experiment, we write it down and we produce what we call science articles. Or they are called in English scientific papers. So what we do is we publish our work. So normally, now not with the pandemic, but normally during the year, there are many meetings, international meetings, where scientists from the same topic meet and they talk about their progress in the scientific field. So I had the opportunity to go to Portugal, to Faro in the south coast of Portugal. I also went to Sweden, to the city of Göteborg. I also went to Italy, to Ancona. We were there for 4 days, and we were people from all over Europe mainly, and also some people from some countries of Asia and some countries America, mainly European people. And we were discussing different topics regarding fish and environment and the effects of pollution in those fish. Also, there were some people working with fish that are being grown because another problem is that there are less fish now in the sea. So some people try to grow them in captivity, so we don't run out of fish for our diet. And it was it's always very interesting and enriching to meet people that are working in similar fields and to talk about them, to talk about all the new aspects of your investigation. So I enjoyed a lot those years. It was a lot of work that we had to do and that I had to do in the laboratory. You have to try to be very organized and to work every day, and sometimes you have to study also because you need to know about new techniques or about if you find something that you don't understand, if you have a result in the laboratory that you don't know what it means, so you need to do a research and study. So it's hard work, but very nice work and very enriching. And the best moments were, for example, to travel and to meet new people. Then also I had the opportunity because to work abroad in Utrecht in the Netherlands. I went there for 3 months because normally when here in the University of the Basque Country, when you do a PhD, they recommend that you go abroad at least for 3 months, so that your title then is called international PhD. And so I went to the Netherlands because I wanted to learn more about some specific things in the development of fish. And there is an expert there, and we contacted him, and then I went there. So it was also a nice experience because it's a very different country. They work differently in the laboratory. It's always nice to see how other people work in the laboratory, because you can get ideas and you can learn many different things. For example, new techniques, or you get to know people also that they are doing their PhD, and they tell you if they do the things in the same way as you or not, and you can take good ideas and you can also share your ideas. So at first, when you move to another country, even if it's for a short time of period, you feel scared. But then you get there, and normally people are welcoming, and they are nice to you, and you have to work hard, but everything goes well. And it was a really nice experience that I would love to repeat, to go again abroad and to change a bit my day life. So I think that more or less my experience in science has been that. Of course, there are some problems sometimes. Also, you are young. I finished my PhD with 29 years, and I started with 25. You are young comparing to other people that are working in science. And sometimes when you have ideas, some people, they don't like to hear new ideas, and that is sometimes well, you have to get used to it, but sometimes you get home and you are worried because you think that your work is not good or is not good enough. But then in general, the experience is nice, and you get to work well with people, and it's really, really interesting. If any of you are interested in science or in biology, I recommend to continue and to try. And if you can do this kind of work, normally it's very interesting. So I think that well, I will just say a few things more, and you can start making questions. So after I finished my PhD, even if I had a nice experience, I needed a change. So as I already knew that I like to work in education, I changed my field completely, and I did a master, another master to become a teacher, a school teacher. And then when I finished, I started looking for a job in this field, and I was lucky, and I got here to Arangoya, and I am working here since September. So a big change for me from working with fish and in the laboratory to working with students, but it's also very, very nice, very different, but also nice. So I think that I have been talking about all my career. I hope it was clear, everything clear, but of course I appreciate if you have questions for me. We have a question here. I don't know if, yes. Yes. No. I don't know if you have heard the question from our student. Okay. She was asking if I have said that when we went fishing, we didn't see that the fish were ill with our eyes. From the outside, they were healthy. And it was in the laboratory that we realized that they were ill. So she asked if when we eat fish, they are not healthy. Okay, I haven't said this, but I was working with fish that are always in polluted areas. You know them in Bilbao. When you look to the river, you see this ugly fish. Okay, so I worked with those. Okay, they like a lot the dirt. They are always trying to eat dirty things. Okay, so they are 24 hours a day in contact with pollution. The fish that we eat come from the sea and far from the coast. Normally, they come far from the coast. The water in the sea is more clean than the water in our rivers here. And the conditions in the salt water are better, and those fish are not ill. And normally, well, we eat the mussel from the meat that we eat from the fish. Normally, is healthy. Okay, the organs, some organs are not healthy. Like you have to imagine also us when we get sick, we are not normally, and luckily we are not all our body is not healthy. Sometimes we have a problem in the liver or yes, in the lung, but it's like a very specific area normally that is sick or ill. Okay, so you don't have to worry. Don't worry. When we eat fish, the part of the meat that we eat is healthy. There are many people doing research on this, and it seems that it's okay. There's no problem with eating that meat. Okay, we have more questions here in Arangoya, but if you have questions.
Forgive me, I'm gonna have to jump in here. I'm gonna maybe tell some of my students some of the questions that they came up with in class. So I'll send those to you because I'll send those to my students so that they can be the ones to ask the next question. But I'll say one of them for now. And that was our 8th graders were wondering if you could maybe tell us in what ways animals may have, maybe obviously fish in this case, but how animals may have suffered during the pandemic, or maybe have not suffered. Whatever.
Okay. Yes. So okay. If we think about fish that are in the laboratory, because I was working with wild fish, but there are people that have the fish in aquariums in the laboratory. So fish that are already in the laboratory haven't suffered because those people could go there to take care of them. So for them, it was like normal life, everyday life. Then fish from the wildlife, the ones that eat normally, for example, plants, they haven't suffered because on the contrary, they were very relaxed because people were not going to the rivers, were not going to the sea. We were all at home, so fish from the wildlife, fish in the rivers and in the seas were very relaxed. And some fish from the cities, maybe they had less food because these fish that I was telling you, these fish that, for example, live in the river of Bilbao, are used to people throw into them, for example, bread or other things. And maybe they were a bit wondering what's going on and why we don't have anymore these people looking at us and throwing food to us. But I think that they didn't suffer. Yes, we have here one question. Yes. Okay, so a student here asked me if when face masks get to the sea because we throw them, if more fish are going to die. Okay, so this is the same problem as with all the other things that we throw. It's very important that we don't throw the face masks to the floor in the city, that we take care of that, but it's the same problem that happens with other everyday life use products. So I don't know if they are going to die, but it's true that if all these products go into the sea, they are going to interfere with them and they can be harmful for them. If they also, if some, not only fish, big mammals that live in the sea, if they eat or they take them accidentally, that can be harmful.
Yeah, and they can return the state of the house again to come out.
Yes, gas, oil, or yes, to the town hall or to the. Okay, so they are also talking about recycling the face masks. So yes, there are some ways to recycle them, but I think that this is more an economical issue. So if it's economically relevant, they will probably get to recycle more masks. And yes, they can do something else with them. Yes. We have another question and then a question here in the meeting. Yes. Okay, so now they are asking here about the microplastics that can be found in some fish. So the topic is quite new because they started in the last decade working with microplastics or working on the effects that microplastic have in fish. They already don't know very well which are the consequences. So, and they still don't know which are the consequences if we eat them. Normally, these micro or nano plastics are very, very small. So it is thought also that we take them not only eating fish, but also because other things. For example, when we, some of our creams for the face, for example, have these microplastics. But it is not clear which are the consequences for humans. So they are still working on it. Then in this topic, you know that there is always a lot of controversy. There are always people that say that everything is harmful, that we mustn't take these products, we mustn't eat fish, and we have to be more we have to try to have more prudence and be kind and wait and see the consequences. Normally, they don't let us eat something that is harmful. Okay, so don't worry. Okay. There was someone here, I think. No?
Yes, Elena Pironti,
Yeah,
would you like to ask your question?
Sure. Hi, I want to ask why you start teaching.
Why I started teaching? Okay, so I had already been teaching to some students in the laboratory, students of the degree of biology and also master students. And I realized that I liked to do that work, and I wanted a change in my life, and also working in science is it can be very stressful also. And it's very nice, but well, I had been working for about 6 years in the same topic, and I wanted to change. And you have to know that science is very important, but normally there is not enough money for working so many years or for doing all the research that you want to do or so fast. So you can see that quite clearly with the coronavirus. A lot of money has been given to the laboratories to work on a solution, so the results have come very fast. But in other fields, for example, in environmental toxicology, yes, it's very interesting, but there is not enough money. So it was more difficult to continue working on that field.
Okay. Thanks.
We have someone else.
Yes, we have Ilaria Micella.
Hi.
Hello.
My question is, what are you doing now for stop the pollution in the ocean?
Me as individual, do you mean?
Or like as
Or in general?
Yeah, in general.
Okay, so in general, there are many countries that are working to stop the pollution. They have different plans. They try to educate people, the citizens. They try that people recycle, that we don't throw our garbage to the floor in the street. And also they try to reduce gas emissions to the atmosphere, because you know that everything is connected. So everything can go into the sea and can be harmful. So there are many plans to work on this. But then, of course, as individuals, we have to be very conscious about these problems, and we need to think about what can we do to prevent these issues.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Maria Sofia Wittenberger.
Yes, so my question is, was your family supportive when you chose this field?
Okay, thank you. Yes, my family was very supportive, because, well, they have always supported what I have decided. I am very lucky. I have a very supportful family, but also because my father is a chemist. He's now retired, but he also used to work in science. So he understood very well my will to work in that field. So I was lucky on that also.
Giulia Milanesi.
Yeah, I want to ask you if you could go back time, would you change anything or not?
It's a very difficult question, but no, I think that every step that I have taken, every decision that I have made, it's part of me, and I think that I would do the same. I had doubts about studying biology, but I think it was a good choice. Then I also had doubts about what to do next, but I think that I wouldn't change. No.
Okay, thank you.
Matilde Izzo.
My question is, when you were a child and had you ever imagined that you would have become what you are today?
No, not really. When I was a child, you know that at the school they always ask you, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I was changing my mind every time. I didn't know. I didn't know that I would work in science, that I would work with fish, and then that I would become a teacher now. No, I had no idea. More questions or here in the class? Anything?
Yes, sorry. Sofia Dimisha.
My question is, why did you choose to study work in these many particular fields?
Okay, so the thing is that it was all like casualties. That I studied biology and I liked it, but then it was like I saw that there were different masters that I liked, but I decided not to go abroad, so I continued here. And I started working in the Master of Contamination and Toxicology. Then suddenly they asked me if I wanted to continue working in that field. So there were like small steps that they made me go through that pathway. I wasn't very conscious about it. It was like little things that happened in my life that they helped me continue with that pathway.
Victoria, did you have a question?
No, sorry.
Okay, no problem. Agnese Grossegondi?
Yes, I want to ask that where and when was the passion born for this type of work?
So, well, okay, it's difficult because it's. I thought that the field was interesting because we are creating the contamination in the environment. So it was very interesting to me to know which are the consequences. So I was passionate about it because it was a topic that I thought that it was very important. It is very important to understand what is happening. And then also it became interesting because of the lab work. I like a lot working in the lab, every day doing the experiments with different solutions in there's the typical laboratory picture with the lab coat, the white lab coat, with the pipette and everything. So I liked that work a lot.
Okay, thank you.
Victoria Vender?
Yes. When you were a child, you had other dream interests?
Yes, I always liked music, but I cannot sing. So maybe my other interests were music, but I couldn't go with it because I'm awful at singing. I used to play the piano, but I wasn't very good. So I changed that and I continue studying.
Okay, thank you.
Wonderful. Unfortunately, I feel like I'm gonna have to stop the questions from the students, but I do have one question for you and for everyone to kind of conclude. I was wondering if maybe, considering the fact that all of us are here together, there are almost 80 people from, Spain and the Czech Republic and Italy, and most of us obviously are quite young, and many of us are also young women are getting ready to go out into this new world that we have waiting for us. I was wondering if you have any advice to give these young people as they get ready for their lives in the vast world that is outside of our middle school or high school.
Yes, it's. I think that it can be difficult to continue with what you want to do. It's always difficult to, for example, to know what you want to do. And but I think that I'm sure that every one of us is very capable of deciding, and I'm sure that all the decisions are well made. And sometimes, even if you have doubts, you need to continue with your decision. And and then the thing is that you have to be prepared, because the real life outside school, it's hard sometimes. But you need to be strong and to fight, and to continue with your purpose and what with that you want to achieve. So I think that even if things get harder, you need to be prepared, and you need to think that you are able to continue, and you will get someday to be a very important person. Of course, it doesn't matter the field, it doesn't matter the type of work. We are all very important. So in some way in your life, you are going to be very, very useful for the community, or for your family, for your friends, for anyone. So I encourage you to continue with what you want to do, with what you want to achieve, and don't give up.
Don't give up. I like it. I like it. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all for your attention.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I will put the girls here in the camera so you can see them if you no?
Hi.
Thank you so much. Oh, sorry. No, I just wanted to say that in just a few minutes we have actually in one moment we have our next phase, which is learning about Italy, or our wonderful Italy. So the girls are all prepared. In case you've noticed, a few of them have painted flags on their faces. Very cool. So can't wait to hear what you have to say. Maybe we can take a little pause of a few minutes just to collect ourselves, and then so I'm gonna say 11:05, maybe 5-minute break, and see you very, very soon in the other link that has been sent out to you. Okay.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you. Bye. Thank you.